6 months ago, Ethan Miller was broke, scared, and one step away from giving up. His wallet was always empty, his fridge half full, and his dreams fading a little more each day. He didn't come from wealth, and he didn't expect miracles. But what he never imagined was that a simple notebook, a few numbers, and one powerful decision would completely change his life. He organized his budget and saved $6,000 in just 6 months. If you love stories that show how ordinary people can change their lives through discipline, faith, and smart choices, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications. It really helps us bring more stories like this one. Stories that prove that transformation is always possible. Ethan's journey didn't start with money. It started with frustration. He was 28, working long shifts in a noisy warehouse in Ohio. Every Friday his paycheck came, and by Monday it was already gone. Rent, bills, groceries, debts. The math never seemed to work. He felt trapped in a cycle that everyone around him had accepted as normal. But Ethan couldn't accept it anymore. One night, sitting in his small apartment, surrounded by overdue bills and takeout boxes, something inside him snapped. He grabbed a pen, opened an old notebook, and wrote 3 words across the first page: "Take control now." He didn't know what those words would mean. He just knew he couldn't live like that any longer. As he looked at the empty page, he realized that his biggest problem wasn't his income. It was his habits, the small, invisible leaks that drained his wallet and his hope. The morning coffees, the unused subscriptions, the weekend splurges he always justified with, "I deserve it." That night, Ethan made a promise to himself. For the next 6 months, he would track every dollar, where it came from and where it went. No excuses, no exceptions. He didn't tell anyone, not even Sarah, his girlfriend, because he was afraid she'd laugh. He'd tried to start saving before, and it never worked. This time felt different, but he didn't want to jinx it. He didn't realize it yet. But that single decision, writing those 3 words, would lead to something he had never felt before: peace of mind. As the first week passed, Ethan began noticing things he had ignored for years. The vending machine at work that stole $5 a day. The random Amazon orders that filled his drawers, but never his heart. He started saying no, not out of guilt, but out of clarity. And for the first time, that clarity felt like freedom. But clarity can be dangerous too, because once you start seeing the truth, you can't unsee it. And soon, Ethan would face the one test that could either destroy his plan or prove how much he had really changed. The first week felt easy. Ethan wrote down every expense, from the smallest coffee to the exact change he tossed into the gas station tip jar. He created columns, categories, and colors on the page. For the first time, he could see his money, but seeing it didn't mean controlling it. By the end of week 2, frustration hit him hard. He was sitting at his kitchen table, receipts scattered everywhere, when Sarah walked in with takeout. "Come on, Ethan. You've been staring at those numbers for an hour. Let's just eat." He sighed. "I can't. I already hit my food budget for the week." Sarah frowned. "It's just a burger. You're being too extreme." Her words hurt more than she realized. Maybe she was right. Maybe he was overdoing it. He gave in, ate the burger, and crossed out another $12 from his notebook. That night, guilt kept him awake. The next morning at the warehouse, Ethan was quiet. His friend, Mr. Davis, a graying man with tired eyes but a calm smile, noticed. "Tough morning?" Ethan shrugged. "Just tired, trying to save money, but it feels like fighting gravity." Mr. Davis chuckled softly. Yeah, I know that battle. I lost it for 20 years. Ethan looked at him, curious. What do you mean? Mr. Davis leaned closer. I used to make twice what I make now. Had 2 cars, a big house, and a mountain of debt. It took me losing everything to realize I was chasing comfort, not control. He paused, letting the words sink in. You're young. You've got a chance to do it right. Don't stop now because it's hard. That conversation stuck in Ethan's mind, like a spark refusing to die. He started writing small notes under his expenses. Was it worth it? Could I've waited? What do I really want? It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about self-respect. One evening, after work, he looked around his apartment. The walls were bare, the shelves half empty. He thought about how he used to fill the emptiness with things, gadgets, clothes, nights out. Now the silence felt different, peaceful, almost sacred. He realized he didn't miss the noise, he missed purpose. Weeks passed. He tracked every dollar religiously. He skipped nights out, learned to cook, cancelled his gym membership, and started jogging in the park instead. Every sacrifice added up, not just in his bank account, but in his mindset. Still, temptation always found a way back. One payday, scrolling through his phone, he saw an ad for the latest wireless headphones, 40% off. His heart raced. He could afford them now. It wouldn't ruin the plan. He hovered over the Buy Now button, hearing Sarah's voice in his head. You deserve something nice. But then another voice echoed, older, steadier, Mr. Davis's. Comfort isn't control. Ethan stared at the screen, fingers trembling. Then he closed the app and opened his notebook instead. He wrote in bold letters, saved today, $150. A small victory, but it felt like winning a war. That night he texted Mr. Davis, didn't buy the headphones, feels weird but good. Mr. Davis replied, welcome to the other side, kid. That's the sound of freedom. Ethan smiled, realizing something profound. Saving wasn't about restriction, it was about reclaiming choice. But as he turned off the lights and lay in bed, he didn't know that a new challenge was about to test everything he had built. Not with temptation, but with loss. It was a rainy Thursday morning when Ethan's phone buzzed with a message that made his stomach drop. Your payment for utilities has failed. Outstanding balance, $300. He stared at the screen, confused. He had been careful, disciplined. How could he still owe money? He opened his notebook, line after line of neatly tracked expenses. Everything was there, no mistakes. Then he realized the problem. His rent had gone up that month. He'd seen the email but told himself he'd adjust next time. Now next time had arrived, and his carefully balanced plan was falling apart. He felt defeated. All those nights of saying no, all those small sacrifices. And still, he was behind. When Sarah came over that evening, she noticed the change in him. What's wrong? She asked softly. He looked up, exhausted. I messed up. I thought I had it under control. But I don't. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Sarah hesitated. Ethan, you've been doing great. Everyone slips sometimes. He shook his head. No, I've been living like a monk and still can't stay afloat. What's the point? The anger in his voice wasn't about money. It was about hope slipping away. He picked up his notebook, ready to throw it across the room, but stopped. He saw the first page again. Take control now. Those 3 words stared back at him like a challenge. He grabbed his jacket and walked out into the rain. Outside, the streetlights reflected on puddles as he wandered aimlessly, replaying his failures in his head. Then he saw the flickering neon sign of the diner. the one where he used to waste hours and dollars without thinking. He walked in, dripping wet, and there was Mr. Davis sitting at the counter with a cup of coffee. "Rough night?" Mr. Davis asked without looking up. Ethan laughed bitterly. "You could say that. I messed everything up." Mr. Davis gestured to the seat beside him. "Sit. Tell me." Ethan poured out everything. The rent, the bills, the feeling that all his effort was for nothing. When he finished, he expected advice, maybe pity. Instead, Mr. Davis smiled faintly. "You think saving money means everything will go right. It won't. Life doesn't care about your plans. What matters is what you do when it doesn't." Ethan looked down. "So, what do I do now?" Mr. Davis leaned back. "You fix it. You adapt. You don't quit because one month went wrong. You learn the difference between a plan and a system." "A system?" Ethan asked. Mr. Davis nodded. "A plan is what you hope will happen. A system is what you do when it doesn't." Those words hit Ethan like thunder. He'd been following numbers, not building habits. He realized that discipline wasn't about being perfect. It was about being consistent, despite imperfection. That night, back home, Ethan rewrote his budget from scratch. He created an emergency column, added a flex fund, and made space for mistakes, because life had bills that didn't fit neatly in boxes. Sarah watched him from the couch. "You're really starting over?" He smiled, tired but calmer. Not starting over, adjusting the system. For the first time in weeks, his voice carried something new. Confidence. Days turned into weeks again, and Ethan slowly recovered his rhythm. He stopped chasing perfection and started building resilience. He even found small ways to earn extra, selling unused items, doing weekend deliveries, and fixing bikes for neighbors. Every dollar had a purpose now. By the end of the month, not only had he covered the $312 debt, but he'd also saved another $400. He looked at the total in disbelief, not because it was a lot, but because it meant he could fall and rise again. But just as things began to stabilize, something unexpected happened, something that would force Ethan to make a choice between his comfort and his commitment. It was a Saturday morning in late spring when Ethan's phone rang. The kind of call that changes the tone of your whole day. "Ethan, it's Mom," the voice said, trembling. "Your dad's in the hospital, heart attack." For a moment, everything went silent. He dropped the dish he was holding, the sound echoing in the tiny kitchen. He drove for hours to reach the hospital, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that his knuckles turned white. When he finally saw his father, pale, fragile, and hooked to machines, he felt something break inside him. The doctor's words were serious but hopeful. "He'll recover, but it'll take time. We'll need to monitor him and adjust his medication." Ethan nodded, still trying to process it all. But as his mother handed him the list of medical expenses, his heart sank. Insurance would cover part of it, but not all. They'd need nearly $2,000 out of pocket. That night, Ethan sat alone in the hospital cafeteria, staring at his notebook. His emergency fund, the one he'd just started, had only $600. He could use his savings, but that meant wiping out months of progress. The thought made him sick. He whispered to himself, "What's the point of saving if I can't help my own family?" Sarah joined him later that evening. "You should use the money," she said gently. "That's what it's for." Ethan nodded but stayed silent. It wasn't about losing the money. It was about losing the momentum, the pride he'd built. Still, deep down, he knew she was right. That night, He withdrew the money and paid the hospital bill. Watching the balance drop from $2,400 to $400 hurt more than he expected. It felt like watching his progress disappear. He told himself it was okay, but the next few days he couldn't shake the emptiness. The motivation that once fueled him was replaced by fear that he'd never get it back. One afternoon, sitting outside the warehouse during his break, Mr. Davis joined him again. "Heard about your dad," he said quietly. "How's he doing?" "Better," Ethan replied, "but I had to use my savings. Feels like I'm starting from zero again." Mr. Davis nodded. "That's what savings are for, son. They don't protect your money, they protect your peace." Ethan looked at him, puzzled. Mr. Davis smiled. "You didn't fail. You just proved the system works. You handled a crisis without panic. That's freedom." Those words hit him like sunlight breaking through clouds. He realized that the real victory wasn't the money he saved. It was the calm he felt knowing he could face the storm and survive it. When his father came home weeks later, Ethan brought groceries and filled the fridge. His mom hugged him, tears in her eyes. "You've changed, Ethan." He smiled softly. "I had to." Back home, he opened his notebook again. The pages were messy, smudged with water stains from long nights of worry, but on a new page he wrote a single sentence: "Every setback is part of the system." From that moment, his motivation reignited, not from pride, but from purpose. He worked overtime, sold unused furniture, and even started helping friends set up their own budgets. Sarah noticed the spark return in his eyes. "You really believe in this now, don't you?" He smiled. "I don't just believe it, I live it." But just as Ethan began to rebuild, a new temptation appeared, one that looked harmless, even logical. And this time, it wouldn't test his wallet. It would test his heart. By midsummer, Ethan's life had found a new rhythm. His father was recovering well, his job was stable, and his savings had climbed back to $2,800. He wasn't rich, not even close, but for the first time, he felt safe. He'd turned budgeting into something more than numbers. It had become part of who he was. Every morning he checked his balances like someone checking the weather, not with fear, but awareness. Then one Friday night, Sarah showed up with a smile he hadn't seen in a long time. "Guess what?" she said, eyes bright. "There's a flight sale to Miami. Round trip, 2 tickets, $480 total. We could use a break, Ethan." The words hit him like a warm wave. Sun, ocean, freedom. He'd been working non-stop for months, eating leftovers, counting every penny. The thought of sitting by the beach with Sarah felt like heaven. He smiled weakly. "That sounds amazing. So let's do it," she said, squeezing his hand. "You've been so responsible. You deserve this." That word again, deserve. It echoed in his head like a bell from the past. The same word that used to justify every bad purchase, every careless swipe of his card. He looked at Sarah, then at his notebook lying on the counter, the same notebook that had pulled him out of chaos. He hesitated. "Let me think about it, okay?" That night, he couldn't sleep. His mind was at war. On one side, "You've earned this." On the other, "Don't undo everything you've built." He opened the notebook and stared at the first page again. Take control now. Then he flipped to his current page. Savings $2,812. Goal $6,000. He'd come so far. But what was the point if he couldn't enjoy life? He closed his eyes and remembered Mr. Davis's words. Money doesn't buy freedom. Control does. The next morning, Sarah came over, excited. "Did you book it?" Ethan smiled softly. "No, Her smile faded. Why not? You said you wanted to travel. I do, he said gently, but not yet. I want to build something first. When we go, I want it to be because we can, not because we craved it. Sarah looked disappointed, then thoughtful. You've changed so much. He nodded. I had to. They sat in silence for a moment before she whispered, You're right. Let's wait. That weekend, instead of a beach, they spent the day at the park, bringing sandwiches and laughing under the sun. It wasn't Miami, but it felt real, grounded, earned. Later that evening, Ethan met Mr. Davis at the diner again. You ever feel like saying no makes life smaller? Ethan asked. Mr. Davis smiled. At first, yeah, but then you realize you're not saying no to life. You're saying yes to peace. Ethan leaned back, smiling. He felt that peace for the first time in years. A quiet satisfaction that didn't come from what he owned, but from what he chose not to lose. As he walked home that night, the city lights reflected off store windows filled with things he used to want. Shoes, phones, watches, but none of it called his name anymore. Because for the first time, Ethan didn't need more to feel enough. He didn't know it yet, but this calm before the dawn was leading him to his biggest realization. The moment that would finally complete his transformation and reveal how far he'd truly come. Autumn arrived quietly, painting the trees outside Ethan's apartment with shades of gold and amber. 6 months had passed since the night he wrote those 3 words. Take control now. That evening, as rain tapped softly on the window, Ethan sat at his table, the same old notebook open in front of him. The pages were filled with numbers, scribbles, and notes that told the story of a man who refused to give up. He took a deep breath and added the final entry. Total saved. 6,012. For a long moment, he just stared at the number. It didn't even feel real. He wasn't supposed to be the kind of guy who saved money. He was just an ordinary worker from a small town. Someone who used to believe that financial freedom was for other people. But now, staring at that number, he realized it was never about being rich. It was about being free. He picked up the notebook, running his fingers across the worn-out cover. Each page held a lesson: patience, sacrifice, self-control. The $6,000 was just the result. The real treasure was the person he'd become. Sarah came over later that night. You did it, she said softly, smiling. $6,000. He nodded, smiling back. We did it. She looked around the apartment. Cleaner, brighter, simpler. It feels different here. It is, Ethan said. It's peace. It's knowing I can face whatever comes next. They sat on the couch, sharing a quiet moment. Sarah leaned her head on his shoulder. So what now? Ethan smiled. Now, I keep going. This isn't the end. It's the start of something bigger. The next day, he met Mr. Davis at the diner one last time before his mentor retired. I hit my goal, Ethan said proudly. Mr. Davis smiled, stirring his coffee. I knew you would, but tell me, what did you really learn? Ethan thought for a moment. That control isn't punishment, it's freedom. Every dollar I saved wasn't money I lost. It was a choice I won. Mr. Davis raised his cup. Then you're richer than most people will ever be. As Ethan walked out of the diner, the world looked different. The streets were the same, the buildings the same, but his perspective had changed. He noticed people rushing into stores, chasing discounts, buying things they didn't need to feel alive. He smiled, not with judgment, but with understanding. He had been there once, and now he was free. That night, Ethan opened his notebook one more time and wrote a new phrase on the last page. Wealth starts with one disciplined choice. He closed it, placed it on the table, and whispered, "Thank you." If you're watching this and you feel stuck, like I did, start small. Track one expense. Make one decision. Control one habit. 6 months from now, you won't just have more money, you'll have peace, freedom, and pride you can't buy. If this story inspired you, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because change doesn't start with money, it starts with choice.